It's the first Sunday night in December, and I am thinking about all my seniors who have applied early decision to a college or early action, and they're going to hear back in the next few days about whether or not they were admitted. And I've been thinking about how parents, students, college counselors, college advisors can best support this whole process over the next few weeks. So if a student's admitted, obviously they feel amazing. If a student's deferred or denied, there are, a lot of emotions. I received an email last week from a student saying that he did not know if he could handle it if he was denied. And I'd like to say that that is a unique email for me to receive, but it's really not. And I just want to make sure that we are all in a place where we can be supportive of the good and the bad of the next few weeks in terms of college admission. So for about 5 minutes, I just wanted to share a few thoughts that have been knocking around my head today as we launch into next week. If a student's admitted, yay, woohoo, you're in, what's to think about, right? You just expect your student to be admitted, you're thrilled if they are, and you move on to the next. Not so fast. Does it really change the student if they're admitted right away? Do they suddenly become more brilliant, more intelligent, more intuitive, all the things that we love about them? Of course not. No, they were simply admitted to the institution of their choice, and that is great. That's wonderful. That's a gift in a lot of ways. Absolutely, they earned it, but a lot of things also had to fall into place for that situation to happen. If a student is deferred or denied, lots of disappointment, right? It's a very similar sound that a senior makes when they're admitted or when they're deferred or denied. It usually involves a scream, and it's emotional. A lot of emotion comes out, and I've seen it time and time again. And when it's a defer or deny, so many questions happen at once. Parents asking questions, students asking questions, students questioning their value, their worth. And every time, I think it's super important for us to remind them their value did not change. They did not suddenly become less intelligent, less all the things we love about them, right? It's just about institutional need, which is one of those annoying buzzwords, but it's an important one to understand right now, especially in the next few weeks. Colleges admit based on business decisions that are defined by the institutional needs of their campus. So how much do they have to make in tuition dollars to meet their budget? How many basketball players does their team need? How many buckets do they need to fill in a myriad of different areas depending on what the institutional goals are for the college or university? So that's a really boring way of saying colleges are looking for really specific things from the entire class. So as they define their class, or they call it shaping their class for the class of 2025 on their campus, what are they looking for? And how does your application or your student's application help fill those needs? And they change a little bit every year. Having a heads up about what a college was looking for and what they kind of found from the class of 2025 can help a student understand a decision. One of the best places to find that information, I find, is often in the student newspaper of the college. So looking at that newspaper and reading, typically they'll say, the class of 2025 was defined by this percentage of this, that percentage of that, and on and on. And it helps a student to really read that in some ways. And in other ways, it makes them wonder even more. And we want to be supportive and make sure that students are not coulda, woulda, or shoulda-ing during this process. And what does that mean? We need to reassure them that they truly did do everything they could through the process, and that the process itself is not merit-based. It's not based on everything a student has to offer. It's based on what the need is of the college and university. Two very different things. So absolutely, most likely the student could have been wildly successful at the university. Is the student that was admitted to University A any more brilliant or walking on water than the student who was deferred at University A? We cannot say that. Absolutely cannot say that. So many different buckets need to be filled. by the institution, that it really just depends what the combination is with the number of applicants, what they offer, what the needs are. And that's not a quantitative application anyone can do, even if they're in Calc 3 as a senior. So reassuring your students comes from giving them control of the process. Before they hear a decision, talk as a family about controlling that narrative. How will the student hear the decision? Do they want to hear it by themselves and then come out and tell you as a family? Do they all want to circle around the screen together and find out together? Do they want to open their mail if it's still a college that sends it by snail mail? Once the decision is known, who gets to share it? Is it the parents' news to share? Absolutely not. You need permission from your child to share that information. Think about the context of sharing your information, which is really hard to do in the moment, especially if you're super psyched that your child was admitted or got their dream or your dream. If you share it far and wide, I mean, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. You might just want to wait a day or two to do that. I mean, some students also, it was their dream and they didn't quite get it. And it's really hard as they're scrolling through social media to see the admits. Is it your obligation to think about them? It's not. But I do struggle with seeing the fallout of social media on students. Ones that are admitted and then ones that are not admitted. It's interesting, the backlash that comes from posting humble brags as parents. So just be mindful of keeping your own personality and being authentic with why you're sharing and how you're sharing. And most of all, I just think it's important for us to maintain a sense of perspective about all that this is. And what it is a business where institutions are looking to fill the needs of their product. And there are, thousands of colleges and universities out there where your son or daughter would have been easily admitted. So if they were admitted to their first choice, all the more reason to celebrate. If they were deferred or denied, it doesn't mean anything more than that institution decided that they were going to go in another direction to fill their institutional needs. It has no bearing on the potential success of the student applicant. So let's all together kind of take a pact and say, we're going to be here, especially these next 3 weeks. Well, I mean, let's just always be there, obviously, for the students to support them. If anyone to support needs it, it's the class of 2021 in high school. They'll be the class of 2025 in college. They've shown such resilience, an overused word, of course. But my goodness, they really deserve our support these next 3 weeks either way. Let's not let the decision own their emotions in any way. Let's help them keep perspective using facts, using support, listening to them, letting them talk it out, and celebrating them, celebrating all the options and opportunities that every single one of them has, regardless of whether they're admitted, deferred, or denied. I wrote a piece about this called "It's a Deny and Here's Why" last March. And all the students that I kind of highlighted, and it was funny, most of them circled back to me and they're like, oh, that was hilarious. I just wanted to give you an update. This is where I ended up. This, because it's a little bit of a parody on you can literally walk on water and still be denied. So I'll include a link to that in underneath this video. But let's just all make a pact to keep perspective together. And the answers you want are just usually right in front of you. Don't spend a lot of time online scrolling in random Reddit. The facts are in front of you if you want to see them, and use the universities themselves for that information, and don't go too deep into the press or too off into the internet world. It'll send you into a spiral that's completely unnecessary. Stay grounded in the people who know you best. And there's always more options. There are always options available. So keep that perspective in mind. And let's, as a group of adults, as the adults in the equation here, let's make a pact together to make sure the students who are being evaluated during this period keep that understanding that it's really not about them. It's about something called institutional need. So happy holidays, happy college decision rounds, and have a great week.